this week. Today is March 21st, 2023. If you like what you hear, please drop us a like and subscribe for weekly NFL related news. I'm your host, Brandon, and I'm joined by Tim and Paul this week. Today, we're going to give a reaction to Broshmo's latest mock draft and his picks following a crazy week of NFL free agency. But with that being said, Paul, fire it up.
All right, and y'all probably already know who Broshmo is. If you don't, link's going to be in the description. Let's go ahead and start off here. All right, and first off, on the board, he takes C.J. Stroud. I think after trading up to number one, I think that's definitely the route they're going to take. They feel like they need to move up over Houston Texans.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that there's been a lot of talk that C.J. Stroud's the favorite for Carolina, so I think that makes a lot of sense. Looks like with number two, they go ahead and take quarterback Bryce Young out of Alabama. Smart pick for the Texans. It looks like they're trying to find that quarterback to build the franchise around. It looks like to be a no-brainer. The only other quarterback I could see them going is maybe Anthony Richardson, but I think this makes a lot of sense for him.
Bryce Young does really remind me of Deshaun Watson, too. Not a run-first quarterback, but very mobile. Obviously, the size is a lot different, but...
Yeah. Let's see who he takes with number three with Arizona.
Well, just going on that number two take, though, it's kind of like a Deshaun Watson and a Kyler Murray kind of build, honestly. I mean, what is it, 5'9" for Bryce Young?
I think he's smaller than Kyler.
No, he came in 5'10", and I think it was 5'10" and a quarter. Definitely on the smaller spectrum for the small quarterbacks, but
did he get to measure with those moon shoes on he had during the interviews?
No, it was yeah. He was there at the combine. He measured in, I believe, 5'10" and a half or 5'10" and a quarter. And he came in weighing about 204. I think about 10 pounds of that was water weight though. So I bet his
think so.
playing weight is probably closer to like 185 to 190.
The third overall pick, Cardinals take Will Anderson Jr. Our Cardinals fan here, Brandon, what do you think about that?
You know, I would be very surprised if they stay at number 3. This offseason, they've shown that they're kind of playing it safe. They're not signing any big names. I think they're trying to hold their cap, build draft capital. I mean, given they haven't made a trade yet, they have 2 major kind of trade pieces in DeAndre Hopkins and the third overall pick. Personally, I think they're going to trade down and try and build up their younger group. I mean, just with draft capital and that sort of thing. But, I mean, time will tell. I mean, I would not hate Will Anderson going to them. I mean, defense, starting with the defense and building inside out is a good formula.
You know, I tend to agree with you, Brandon. I think if they do tend to, a lot of people are saying that they're looked at as a trade down candidate. However, with Seattle at number 5 there, things do get a little interesting as Seattle would most likely take the top defender on the board or the top non-quarterback prospect on the board. So I know that there's still a few quarterback needing teams such as Atlanta, or maybe like the Jets or Commanders, but I still think that if you trade down too far, there is something to be said about a Will Anderson Jr. or potential Jalen Carter or Tyree Wilson. So I wouldn't be upset with them taking a defensive end. Do I think that they could maybe make a move with the Colts, just maybe pressuring them or bait them a little bit? I think so, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think if they can get a steal for the third overall pick, I love it. But if no one's really offering up for it, Will Anderson is not a bad secondary or plan B.
All right, and it looks like number 4 for the Colts, he's taking Anthony Richardson. I love this pick. New head coach, previously coached Jalen Hurts in their offense. I think they can recreate that flawlessly in Indy, and I think they're going to be set up good as long as their O-line returns to their previous self. I think he's going to be. He has Jonathan Taylor to hand it off, so he doesn't need to be that guy all the time.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, Paul. I think that if that offensive line can return to its prior shape, which I think is still going to be the biggest question mark coming into the season, that along with Anthony Richardson, is he able to come in there and step up and learn the offense as well as Jalen Hurts? Time will tell. But again, great prospect for the Indianapolis Colts there at number 4.
All right, moving along here, he has Tyree Wilson mocked up at number 5. What do you think about that?
That's a lot higher than a lot of people are picking him to. I mean, we're all Texas Tech guys. That's our alma mater. I like him a lot, but I think a lot of people in kind of the draft world are going to view that as a little bit of a reach. But with that being said, taking the pick for what it is, that would be a scary defense with what they've got right now.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that Seattle would do a good job into grooming Tyree Wilson, who's a very raw prospect. I mean, the production was there, but really, I think the reason why he's getting taken at 5 is more on the physical and the measurables more than the production side and the talent just yet. So again, we'll see what happens. I think that Pete Carroll could do a great job. To see Tyree Wilson go above Jalen Carter has me a little I guess a little eye shocked, or shocked by my own eyes. But we'll see, man.
I mean, if you look back a few years too, I mean, Seattle's proven they're willing to take a risk. I mean, they did Jordan Brooks. I mean, and he turned out to be a tackle leader. I think he had the most tackles in the league, or top
yeah,
3 at least.
Yeah, he was top.
No,
I think he was second.
Yeah, they've
solid.
proven to be willing to take a risk.
Yeah, solid pick from Texas Tech. Again, I think Broshmo is not a huge Tyree Wilson fan, or at least at the start of the offseason he wasn't. But I think now he's kind of coming around to it. So glad to see him taking him there at number 5. So with pick number 6, just like Seattle, Detroit also has a second first-round pick. With this first-round pick, they are going to receive that through the Los Angeles Rams, and they're going to take Jalen Carter. Broshmo, I would say that I love this pick. I think that he does have a little bit of character concerns that everyone's been looking at, and going up to his pro day, he did not look like he was in the best shape, which is a little bit of a red flag there. In fact, I think he was struggling to finish some of the drills, and he came in overweight as well. So maybe it kind of comes to a standstill as far as where his his predicted pick is going to be. I mean, he's starting to fall on a lot of people's boards. But I do think that having a coach like Dan Campbell would help turn this guy's life not necessarily around, but give him a good, solid, respectable coach to look up to and a good mentor to help develop into a professional career in the NFL.
Yeah, and there's a lot of momentum on that team to start with. I mean, just looking at Hard Knocks, like seeing it kind of build, and Dan Campbell is a very good motivator, it looks like, just based off of all that. And the ball's starting to roll there. I mean, they've got a heck of a defense this offseason that they've picked up.
100% agree with both of you. I think Dan Campbell is one of the better coaches for Jalen Carter at this time with those current off the field issues. With 7 there with the Raiders, I honestly do not want him to go to Oakland or to Las Vegas. They don't seem to have a great track record with people staying out of off the field trouble, and all those distractions there are definitely not going to be easy for a young guy who's just making a lot of money and also has a record of
Which
racing.
again, I don't think that this guy has terrible character, but I'm right there with you, Paul. I think that the less risky of a situation you put this guy in, the better.
And there's a lot of distractions in Vegas. I mean,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what's the saying? Orange is the new black. Is it black is the new orange in terms of the Raiders?
All right, and pick number 7 with the Oakland Raiders. Broshmo hasn't taken Christian Gonzalez. That's a smart pickup. I think that between him and Devin Witherspoon as my number 1 corner. I'm sure y'all have a little bit of differing opinions, but I think it was a great pickup for the Raiders. They definitely need secondary help, and it really helped trying to turn around that defense.
Yeah, I think Gonzalez he's my number 1 corner, and the Raiders defense was the reason they lost all those close games. I believe they have like 5 or 6 one possession losses in the fourth quarter. Especially with the AFC West with Herbert and maybe Russell Wilson, who knows, and obviously Patrick Mahomes. You definitely need to have corners to guard the receivers. It is kind of interesting that I know they did just sign Jimmy Garoppolo, but Will Levis being still on the board, I don't think Garoppolo is the answer. I know they did sign him to a 3-year deal, but maybe they didn't want to take a chance on, because Will Levis is older. He's one of the older prospects, so holding him or having him sit behind, sit behind Garoppolo, he's only going to get older while he's not getting any significant playing time. So maybe that's what they kind of thought, they shore up their defense and get their play now mode.
Yeah, I would agree with you, man. I think that would be a smart move for them. But I would say that I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo really came all the way to Las Vegas to not start and to essentially reiterate what he did in San Francisco. So I wouldn't say that would be really on their plate. Now for Atlanta here at number 8, quarterback's definitely a potential option. I know they're kind of giving the helm to Desmond Ridder. So Devin Witherspoon being the corner that they select, I think that's going to really solidify that secondary. You have AJ Terrell on one side, and with Devin Witherspoon on the other side, you really have 2 great young cornerbacks, along with Richie Grant as a potential, single high or good solid coverage free safety.
And Jesse
I think it's
Bates.
a good pickup. Yeah, and just I
That's
forgot
gonna be
about
that's
Jesse
gonna be a
Bates.
scary secondary if that's the route they go. Which I mean, they don't have a pass rush, but maybe they address that with some of the later picks.
Yeah, I mean, good pass coverage can make your pass rush look a lot better than what it is. I mean, it can just buy them time to rush, honestly.
It can. All right, and then the Bears at number 9, they took Paris Johnson Jr. Obviously, they do need offensive line. Discussed it multiple times how Justin Fields was the most sacked quarterback this last season with 55 sacks. Obviously, that's not all on the offensive line, but a lot of it is. It's tough to avoid especially these edge rushers that are coming out of the draft. These 4.39, Nolan Smith kind of guys. You gotta make reads, and you got a guy already on your back, so it's kind of tough to do that. But
Yeah, no,
I think
or go
I
ahead,
think
sir.
that tackle is a great addition.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they were looking at trying to go after Caleb McGarry or I think it's Mike McGlinchey, and both of those didn't really fall into their lap. So being able to pick up a solid offensive tackle that could start day one is a smart move for the Bears after their trade down with the Panthers.
Especially their pickup of Nate Davis, sure up kind of giving them another interior offensive lineman with Tevin Jenkins. I think that they definitely obviously need a tackle and then maybe a center down the line.
Yeah, which is what I was thinking Peter Skronsky there a little bit, but I mean, I would agree. I think Paris Johnson's the better prospect and he's a more safe prospect. All right, let's see. It looks like Broshmo is doing a trade down with the Eagles at number 10 here. It looks like he's trading down with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's see what he's willing to give up.
Let's make a prediction. Let's make a
First
prediction
round.
real quick. These 2 first-round picks for the 10. Who are they? Who are they trading up for?
Will Levis. It's got to be Will
Will
Levis.
Levis,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's got to be quarterback. Yeah.
I'm not going to trade up for Bijan Robinson. You don't think?
No. Didn't they just sign a quarterback though over there?
Yeah, Baker.
Mayfield.
Yeah. Well, they've got what is it?
But
Baker, Trask. I mean,
but it's only a 1 year with Baker, so you can.
yeah, I understand that.
So
He's
yeah,
not the future.
with Will Levis going to Tampa at pick number 10 there, I think that's a solid system for him to sit down and learn. However, I don't know if he's really worth the 2 first-round picks. What do you think about that, Paul?
I mean, you have to trade up to get your guy. If he's falling that low, especially with the Titans coming up, I know they drafted Malik Willis last year, but he had a very disappointing season. So they could have taken him, or even I mean, you have the Jets, depending on what they do, or the Patriots coming up. I mean, they have Mac Jones and a couple other guys, but there's some other quarterback needy teams that they're kind of jumping up over to get their guy because obviously they're not in this mock draft. They're not satisfied with Kyle Trask or Baker Mayfield.
All right, with pick number 11, I predicted Peter Skronsky going to the Tennessee Titans. I think it's a smart pickup for the Titans to help bolster that offensive line. Peter Skronsky, I know that there's been a lot of comparisons being that he was an offensive tackle out of Northwestern to Rashawn Slater. They both had a little bit shorter arms. Rashawn Slater, though, definitely a better athlete, but Peter Skronsky is still a really good player. I think that he does go to Tennessee and really help that offensive line out.
Yeah, and I think definitely they're just best tackle available out of the 3, kind of the big 3 guys that are projected to be the first overall or first tackle off the board. They're just kind of taking whatever, and I think it's one of those drafts that you can. They all have their specialties, but if you're going to be the second tackle guy or taking the second tackle, you really can't go wrong. I don't see any of these guys being like a one and done or a bust or have major injury concerns or anything like that. All right, moving down to number 12, we have the Texans' second first round pick, drafting Bryce Young with their first pick. He has him take Lucas Van Ness. Interesting. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that's a good pick. I like Lucas Van Ness a lot, being that he is a very versatile option. But I do think that they need receiver. I probably would have gotten Quentin Johnson or potentially, Jordan Addison or even, JSN out of Ohio State. I think that with Bryce Young being your quarterback, you definitely need to put some weapons around him. I think that they, definitely needed some defensive talent as well. But I think that this is a pretty deep edge class, wide receivers, and I know that this isn't the best class to draft a wide receiver. But I would say that if you could have your pick the top wide receiver in the draft, it's definitely better than what you get as far as value in the second round versus defensive end. I think that you're going to see some of these defensive end and edge rushers fall. So again, not too sure I like that pickup, but again, Lucas Van Ness is a great player.
I don't totally hate it though, because they did just pick up Schultz and Devin Singletary running back. I mean, some weapons are starting to kind of come there. I mean, not to say Singletary's a extremely above average back. I mean,
he's a good running back.
Yeah,
he'll be a good 1-2 punch.
But I think them going defense is not a bad thing here. It's a safer play, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, you got John Mechie as well that's coming back. So I get what you're saying. I think that there are some potential options for Bryce Young, but yeah, I mean, I think that defense is a smart move. Maybe I would have potentially gone a corner with like Joey Porter Jr. To help go along and pair with Devin Stingley. But I think Lucas Van Ness is a solid player. I think he could play potentially defensive end to 3 technique and help kind of give them the pass rush that they desperately need.
All right, it looks like he's preparing a trade for the 13th overall pick with the Jets and the Packers for Aaron Rodgers.
There's no way.
He's a 2-time MVP.
The Jets only have 5 picks this entire draft. I don't think that's going to happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, but with all the rumors that are going around and it's still not a finalized and done deal that he's going to the Jets, I mean, something's going to have to give. I mean, if those rumors are actually real.
Which I think they are, but I think that if you're the New York Jets, Aaron Rodgers did not have a good season this past year. He didn't, and he's due a lot of money. So whether you want to look at it as this is a former 2-time MVP quarterback, that's great. But let's put the facts straight up that this guy in the next year or two could potentially retire, 1, and 2, he's already getting paid an outrageous amount. So I think that the Packers are just ready to move on from him. I think the Jets are really one of the only buyers, if not the only buyer. So I think the Jets really have all the leverage here. What do you think about that?
I mean, when you look at their team from last season, they seem like they have guys everywhere but the quarterback. So, and they're all their weapons are pretty cheap, other than some of their D linemen that they just re-signed. But Breece Hall, Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and then on defense, Sauce. I mean, all their young guys, they won't need a contract for a while. So I think they're in that ballpark where they can afford a quarterback for next 2 to 3 years, which I think Rodgers has another 2 to 3 years in him, especially if he has a nice young arsenal of weapons to make his stats way better and have a run at the playoffs, and doesn't have to deal with the cold. I mean, New York still, but he's not playing in Green Bay. Doesn't have to deal with the AFC North anymore. I see it. I see them. I think a first round pick is bold for it. I think a second is
a top 15 too.
Yeah, if they had a later first overall pick, I think maybe like a 20 to 30. I can justify that, and especially with all the top 4 quarterbacks being off the board. I think I see it being worth it. They want a guy who can plug and play, and I mean he is a 2-time MVP, so he can't be too bad. I think that's justification.
If you're the Packers here, would you consider, just hear me out in this scenario, would you consider like their second round pick and a wide receiver such as like a Denzel Mims or like a Corey Davis? Because I mean, I think that those 2 guys, the second round pick, because it's going to be a mid, maybe early-ish second round pick. I think the Packers, again, they need to get some players for Jordan Love. I don't know what Jordan Love is. He could be a great starter and a hell of a player. Could potentially be the next Aaron Rodgers. But for now, I think you need to put weapons behind him. I think that right now they don't have that. So even with this pickup that Broshmo just did, Nolan Smith, I love the pick there. I think that Nolan Smith's a great player that could fit in that system. I think that the Packers, they definitely and desperately need some wide receiver help there.
I agree. Nolan Smith, he's a good. I mean, obviously he had a great combine. Definitely propelled up a lot of boards. Elite speed at that edge position. Did have some health concerns, but the Packers love their Georgia Bulldogs on defense. They got already 2 of them, so might as well add another one. And then we got the Patriots at 14. Brian Branch, Tim is your guy.
Oh, I love Brian Branch. I think that's a total Bill Belichick guy. Yeah, I know that they just lost their, I believe it was their safety McCourty. This guy can play on, again in the box if needed. He can play in the slot. Great player. I think great pickup for the Patriots there. Some people I've seen have him kind of sliding down people's boards. I think that this is a player that you just watch and see what happens if you let him fall down too far. All right, with pick number 15, it looks like Green Bay was on the clock, and they got Dalton Kincaid. I think that's a very good pickup. Like I said earlier, I think that Jordan Love is definitely going to need some weapons. Dalton Kincaid is definitely one of the better pass catching tight ends in this year's class, if not the best. I think he's probably one of the closest things that we've seen to a Travis Kelsey coming out of the draft in quite some time. But again, like I said, I probably would have gone receiver here. Broshmo definitely, I think, has the likes of Dalton Kincaid, but I do think that like a JSN here would do really well in a Green Bay system. But we'll see about that.
Talk about how Aaron Rodgers would feel if they draft a receiver right after they trade him in the first round.
And that's the only reason I don't think that would ever happen. They go his whole career without drafting a first round receiver, and I don't see them just doing it right after they
I mean, that
him.
would be such a petty move.
Oh, it totally would. It totally would.
Yeah, but this guy, guys, I just looked it up. Aaron Rodgers is set to make almost $60 million in 2023. Again, I know a lot of that's going to get restructured and pushed, but like if this guy wanted to, he could stay on the Packers and really be like a complete, not necessarily bad way to say this, but like a tumor to them. I mean, this guy is not.
I'd almost argue he's been a cancer the past couple of years.
Absolutely. All right, let's see what we got here. It looks like an Austin Eckler trade.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Austin Eckler to the Commanders?
Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, being that they do have, Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson. I guess that Austin Eckler would be a little bit more of that lightning, and Brian Robinson would be the thunder there, which I wouldn't hate. Sam Howell's a young quarterback. They have a decent offensive line. But, if I'm the Chargers, I guess here you got to go Bijan Robinson. I don't know. I don't really see why they do the trade up, but let's see. I know Bijan is Broshmo's guy, so
Bijan Robinson to the Chargers. Oh, LT 2.0. That'd be interesting.
No, I like the pickup. I think it's good. I don't know if I would trade up to go get him though. I don't see Bijan really.
I don't see that trade making much. I think it's more of making much of a difference. I think it's more of like a horizontal move. Like I like Bijan a lot, but the Chargers, I think, have other problems they need to solve.
I love that comparison. Yeah, it's a horizontal move for sure.
Which, I mean, you are trading, I guess, an older guy for a way younger guy, but yeah, I don't see much upside difference there.
This is one of the most mocked players I've seen going to the Steelers. Joey Porter Jr. again following his dad's footsteps. They desperately need corner help, so I think that's kind of a no-brainer.
I think if the NFL is scripted, that's definitely going to happen.
All right, the Lions here. Hold on, pause it real quick. I bet you I could guess. Oh, never mind.
too late.
That disappointment.
Well, it looks like they went with Quentin Johnson, the wide receiver out of TCU. I think it's a great pickup. Given if you can have him, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Jameson Williams as your wide receiver trio, that's pretty freaking scary.
That is a great combo, especially for any future quarterback to come into the system next year, with Goff being on his last year of his deal. All right, and then the trade back with the Eagles, picking now at 19. Lost a lot of guys in free agency, so we'll see where Broshmo has him addressed. This was a couple days ago, so Slay has since re-signed, but I don't know if he's going to be addressing corner here.
I mean, they still need corner help, and there's no such thing as having too many good corners in your room. So
that's
surprised with that.
Kalijah can't see that. That makes a lot of sense. They love their big boys on the inside.
Yeah, I think that would be a little scary. Him and Jordan Davis kind of have reverse strengths and weaknesses. So having that on an opposing front, I think that any offensive line is going to be a little scared of that. Whoa.
And then my boy JSN going to the Seahawks. I would love to see that. That'd be such a nice wide receiver trio. You got this deep threat of Lockett, more of an all-around receiver anyway. And then you got DK Metcalf, and then you got your slot JSN.
That would be scary.
If Geno doesn't throw for 6,000 yards, that's gonna be disappointing.
As a Cardinals fan, I'd really hate that. Looking at them and the 49ers, I'm looking at just hell. Like the Rams, I'm not worried about so much, but Seahawks and 49ers are not going to be fun to play.
No, not at all. I think the only thing that you have going for you with the 49ers is they don't have that much draft capital, so hopefully that plays puts a little
They're
bit of a dent.
masterful with their cap space, though, it seems like.
Yeah, just got Javon Hargrave. All right, looks like the Commanders got a cornerback in Deontay Banks. I think that's a smart move. They really need some corner help. And Deontay Banks, I think, is one of the top corners. I've seen him rise on a lot of people's boards and could see him being potentially the second corner taken in this year's class.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely need some secondary. They have the pass rush, like we discussed, but they do need those secondary pieces to add to Cameron Curl, who they already have. All right, Baltimore Ravens. You got to be receiver, right?
Ooh, it looks like he's projecting a trade down.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables to play with the Ravens because, I mean, I know they're definitely in the mix for the Cardinals D-Hop trade rumors, but also, what is it? Lamar's non-exclusive franchise tag. I mean, does he stay? Does he go? I mean, there's a couple questions around that team.
Chiefs trading up.
Huh.
Let's see, who are we getting? I don't really love trading up, but
I mean, I think if you can get your guy, it makes sense. But I don't see. Oh, Broderick Jones. Oh, I like that. Actually, I like that a lot. I don't know if I would want to give up that much draft capital to go get a guy like Broderick Jones, considering you do have Darnell Wright and Anton Harrison at Oklahoma. Probably that would fall to the Chiefs there at 31, but I don't hate that pick.
I mean, he's definitely a dude. I'll have to look at the rest of the draft board. I don't know who exactly needs tackles, but I mean, I know the Vikings are good. The Giants are good. Jags need to replace their tackle because we just signed him to a way too big a deal. But
well, I mean, I'll put it this way: you lost both of your tackles this year, and you replaced one with Juwan Taylor. Now you have Broderick Jones, who's a plug and play starter there for you. All right, he's got the Vikings and trading down with the Dallas Cowboys.
A lot of trades in this in his mock.
I don't know if I like this. Dallas doesn't really like to act up during the.
Shoot, they've been acting up in a good way this offseason.
Yeah, no, they have been, but I don't know if I like this. I mean, let's see who he has them taken, but I don't think it's really a player. I think that it's really worth trading up for. Okay, for Zay Flowers, I don't know if I like Zay Flowers a lot. I think he's going to be a really good NFL player, but you still have Jordan Addison on the board. I don't think the Jags, they just signed a bunch of wide receivers. The Vikings, I could definitely see them drafting a wide receiver, and then the Giants could definitely draft a wide receiver. In fact, I think they are going to draft a wide receiver, but I don't know if I like that. If I'm the Cowboys, I would just stay still and grab the best player available. No need to give up any further draft capital for that.
And I think Zay is more of an inside receiver anyway, where you kind of predominantly have CD in that role currently. I mean, I know they need to fill a tackle or a tight end position on the other side, but so you can run double slot. But yeah, I think Jordan Addison probably would have been more of an X receiver. Zay Flowers is a good. Don't get me wrong, he's a good player, but
he brings that speed that I think we need. But yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I think Jordan Addison probably would have been a little bit of a better pickup, or just to wait. I mean, again, I think that if you wait, there's no need and no need to really give up any further draft capital, because again, I think the Cowboys right now with the moves they made this offseason, definitely have an ability to just kind of wait, stay still and go get the best player available. All right, now the Jags are next up on the clock. Ooh, going cornerback Cam Smith out of South Carolina. I like Cam Smith a lot. I know a lot of people don't really have him that high on their board, though. He's more of a guy that's probably like the top 50 range for me, but I do think that Jacksonville definitely needs some corner help. However, I mean, Emmanuel Forbes probably would have been a good pickup for him, but I think that he's a little small. I think he only weighed at like 165, so I think that makes sense for them to go corner and probably take Cam Smith, who's the bigger option there for him.
Yeah, big physical corner definitely seems to fit their play style. All right, and then sure enough, the Giants take the next best wide receiver available, Jordan Addison. I don't know if I trade up for Zay Flowers with like the Cowboys, but Jordan Addison on the Giants, Danny Dimes, be a good pairing.
He's mocking you, Broshmo. All right, with the Vikings here at pick number 26, after they traded down with the Dallas Cowboys, I think that they got to go either, probably defensive tackle or wide receiver. But I don't really see any of these wide receivers that are left over, really being worth that pick. So I think you got to go either probably Brian Bresee or maybe even go edge rusher and maybe go like a Miles Murphy route. Oh, he's going guard. He's going guard Steve Avila. That's a reach for me. I think Osiris Torrance has to be the best offensive guard in the class.
Yeah, I think
Oh,
if I'm the
he
Vikings, well, I think if I'm the Vikings, I would take a receiver. I mean, you just let Thielen go. I mean, I was actually looking at that today, and I think he has something like 12.5 mil in dead money, which I'm not super familiar with their cap situation, but I feel like that's a lot to leave on the table for a pretty good receiver, honestly.
was
Yeah,
a
I
free
mean,
agent.
I think they cut him.
they released him, Paul. They
Oh,
released him. Yeah, he was set to make way too much money though. I don't think he was really willing to take a pay cut, so I think they're looking for younger options there. The only thing I will say against that, Brandon, though, is there's not that many good wide receivers left over that are really truly first round material, at least in my eyes. I mean, we're like they could have gone Jalen Hyatt or maybe Josh Downs, but both of those guys have kind of a burner type of mentality, and I think that Adam Thielen was more of that red zone threat that wasn't really most athletic, but definitely a
Which, like, not to bring up the Cardinals again, but I've seen them kind of in the mix for the D Hop trade too. So maybe that's a consideration also. Maybe
yeah,
they get D Hop and figure out a way to get
make
this
the money
edge.
work. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Looks like the Buffalo Bills go Osiris Torrance. I think that's a great pickup. I think that Josh Allen definitely needed a little more protection this season. So Osiris Torrance is definitely the number one guard in my opinion, and the number one interior offensive lineman. So I think that that's a plug and play starter there for you.
definitely help improve that run game that they are also needing. Can't
All
just be
right,
throwing the ball
Bengals,
every
Michael
every
Mayer.
play,
Yeah, I've seen Michael Mayer get mocked at the Bengals a lot now. I
especially
think
after they released or they lost
Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst in free agency. Thank you.
Yeah. All
I also
right.
think they could go a tackle here. I've seen sometimes where they mock either the Oklahoma guy Hutchins or
Harrison.
Harrison
Yeah.
or Damont Jones to pair up with Orlando Brown,
Yeah.
shore
We'll
up that
see.
offensive line.
Let's hear with the Saints, man. I think that the Saints probably are going to go defensive line. I know Broshmo loves Miles Murphy. I know he loves him some Miles Murphy, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's who he takes.
Sure
Yep, that's who
enough.
he takes. Yeah, good player. I think that he's fallen on a lot of people's boards because he didn't really test in the combine. I think he had a hamstring tug or something that
Yeah,
kept him out, but still a good player. I don't think the production was really there, but the tools are. So we'll see what happens. Ooh, Eagles going Tyreek Stevenson.
I'm not super familiar with this guy. Tim, do you know anything about him? Or
I mean, I think he's definitely a not a first round pick kind of caliber player in my book. I mean, I think I have this guy as like a top 75 player. I probably would have gone with like Antonio Johnson or maybe even like Emmanuel Forbes or just Julius Brents. I don't know if I would really reach that much for a corner that was on a little bit of a struggling defense this year, but we'll see, man. It's the Eagles, so I hope they don't pick the best player available. All right, let's see who we got. The Baltimore Ravens with pick number 31 after they traded down with the Chiefs. Looks like he's looking through the wide receivers. Jalen Hyatt. Okay, Broshmo. I don't know. What are you doing, man? I don't know if I would see Jalen Hyatt really working well with Lamar Jackson. They just got rid of Hollywood. I think that's his ceiling, so we'll see. But yeah, I mean, good draft overall. Some questionable trades and some questionable picks. I do want to kind of throw out there though there are a few players that he left off. Emmanuel Forbes is one of them. Smaller cornerback, but had a lot of production out of Mississippi State. No Keon White or Darnell Wright, which I know Keon White's kind of a unproven pass rusher. Darnell Wright, though, definitely is a first-round pick in my eyes at offensive tackle. And then Brian Bresee, I know he's been up and down a lot of people's boards. I think there's a little bit of some consistency concerns there. Let's see. Who else did he leave off? Paul, he left off your guy, Darnell Washington, the tight end out of Georgia.
Yeah, he did. I I don't think he's a first round pick. I know he tested amazing. I to be honest don't even think any of the tight ends. I know they're good, but I don't. I think it's someone you can wait on, especially in the
Yeah.
second round.
Yeah, no, I think it's smart. Yeah, I think it. I'm looking through this, so he looks like he left off Anton Harrison as well, offensive tackle out of Oklahoma. It's another good player that I would see in my eyes being a first round quality player or early second round pick. So we'll see. But yeah, no Broshmo. I'd say good draft. Some iffy trades, some iffy selections, but you know what? That's what we do here. So uh, that pretty much wraps up the mock draft.
And that'll wrap up this week's episode of Two and a Half Takes. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And if you like what you hear, please like and subscribe. Feel free to comment below. Give us some of your takes. Let us know what you thought of ours, and let us know what you thought of Broshmo's takes. Once again, thanks for tuning in, and have a great rest of your week.